Hi students, I thought I would record this in case you missed class on Thursday, or if you want to just watch it over again because maybe there was something you didn't pick up on. So I want to talk about comparative advantage and absolute advantage. Now we talked briefly about it on Wednesday, the other day, so let's look at it now. Comparative advantage is all about the idea of when is it when is it time for me to trade with somebody? When is it worth my while, instead of doing everything myself, to trade with another? And absolute advantage is when I'm more productive than anybody else in every area. Comparative advantage says I might be more productive than another person over different things, but it's not always worth my while to do everything. So how do we figure this out? So here's a little example we'll go through. We'll go through a couple of them. So France and Japan, there's the production of cheese and fish. Let's just think about that. Now these are just arbitrary numbers, okay? They're just numbers just to make an illustration. They really don't make any sense, all right? But by working through these numbers, you get the idea of how this works. So France, let's say as a country, they produce 40, tons of cheese, all right? Japan produces 50 tons of cheese. Fish, France produces 80 tons of fish. Japan produces 200 tons of fish, okay? So if we look to say, okay, who has the advantage who produces the most cheese? France or Japan? And your answer would be Japan. 50 is more than 40, right? So then if you look under fish, you say, who produces the most fish? Japan or France? Well, Japan produces 200 tons. France 80. 200 is more than 80, so Japan does. So then we ask ourselves, who has the absolute advantage when it comes to this trade situation? And the answer is Japan can produce more cheese. Japan can produce more fish. Japan. Okay? But now we get to comparative advantage. Let's take a look at comparative advantage. And how you do this is, okay, let's just look at France first. If France decided, we're not going to do any fish, we're only going to do cheese. So to do at least one cheese, what will that cost them in fish? And so when you do a problem like this, when you're going to determine if you're going to do one cheese here, you take the other that you're giving up, and you take that number and you put it over the number of what you're going to be working on. So they're going to try to produce cheese, and they're going to figure out 1 unit to do. If I do 1 unit of cheese, how much fish am I giving up? So you take the other number, 80, and you put it over 40. So now, hopefully you know something about fractions. You do have, I guess there's a little math here. All right, 80 over 40. Take the 0 out, that's 8 over 4. 4 goes into, you take the denominator, you put it into the numerator. 4 goes into 8 2 times. Okay? So the answer is 1 cheese, 1 unit, will cost France 2 units of fish. All right? Now let's see what Japan will do. Okay? If Japan decides to do 1 cheese, what will it cost them in terms of fish? Take the other number and put it over the number that you're doing. So 200 over 50, get rid of the zeros, you got 20 over 5. 5 goes into 20. How many times? 4. So 1 cheese equals 4 fish. Now let's just complete this. Let's do this. Let's flip it around. We're not done yet, okay? So let's say, what if France decided, hey, we'll do fish, okay? 1 fish equals, and they're going to give up doing cheese, so you take the other number, 40, and you put it over 80. 40 over 80, get rid of this, it's 4/8, all right? And if you bring that down to this lowest common denominator, you get 1/2. So if they decide to do fish, one fish will cost them 1/2 cheese. All right? Now let's see Japan. If Japan decides to give up cheese and just do fish, all right, 50 over, you take the other number, 50 over 200, get rid of that 0, 5 over 20 is 1/4. All right, so now let's see. Who has the comparative advantage? Who should do what? Well, for France, if they're going to do cheese, it costs them 2 fish. Japan, it costs them 4 fish. So obviously, it only costs France 2 fish. When it comes to making cheese, France has the comparative advantage. All right? And when it comes to doing fish, all right, when it comes to doing fish, then it costs France 1/2 cheese, it costs Japan 1/4. 1/4 is less than 1/2, so Japan would have the comparative advantage when it comes to fish. So we would just simply say, hang on a second. Comparative advantage for cheese goes to France. Comparative advantage in fish goes to Japan. And now we have to do, what are the terms of trade? And usually you'll take the whole numbers to decide the terms of trade. And usually the terms of trade are any number that between the 2 and the 4. Okay, in between whatever these numbers are. In this case, you got a 2 and a 4. A number between that is 3. So the terms of trade would be 1 cheese equals 3 fish. All right? So that is how we figure comparative advantage.